In this session, I will show you how to use SAS Enterprise Guide with GitLab, a popular version control system out there. So, but also I just want to make a point of GitHub. Enterprise Guide also works with GitHub, Azure Repos, Bitbucket, and quite a few others. And they will work quite similarly to how GitLab works with SAS Enterprise Guide. But first, I want to touch on why we should use Git. And I think it's important to know what Git is used for and why many enjoy the benefits of using Git. And after showing you how to use Git, I also want to share some practices we recommend you follow in order to work well with Git. Some prerequisite for this to work: you need a managed version control system like GitLab. And as I mentioned, the other works also, and you need SAS Enterprise installed for you to access. And as a way of introduction, I'm Lars Arnesgaard, a solution architect supporting SAS Northern Europe, and I also happen to like Git quite a bit. So I wanted to show you why you would want to use Git. And first off, started with my Enterprise Guide project. And I remember this is now broken. It used to have more stuff. I don't remember exactly what it was. So for some reason I accidentally deleted some important bits of this flow. But luckily I followed the practice of using Git. I committed the change earlier so I can go back in time. So let's do that. So here I can go to my project where I have this is where I have my Enterprise Guide project. I can go back in time to history, and I have this thing. This seems to be right. This was 19 hours ago. So I can go and I can simply browse through this. So I have a bunch of other stuff also, but now I just wanted to take the Enterprise Guide project that I had. So it's this one. And I can simply download it. It's a beautiful Enterprise Guide. It works on my local files. And now I can load this in. So let's do that. Ah, there it is. Save my day. So what you just showed, for that to be able to work, there are certain things that needs to be configured so that you can be able to use Git with the SAS Enterprise Guide based on the repository in GitLab. So I wanted to show you this. So first off, you want to create what's called a personal access token from GitLab. It's a key that represents yourself so that Enterprise Guide can act on your behalf towards GitLab. And once you have this personal access token, you can store this in the Git profile for Enterprise Guide and use it as a way to authenticate to GitLab and do what is called a clone. So we're cloning the repository into a local Git repository for Enterprise Guide to use. So typically in the file system that Enterprise Guide has access to. And from that point on, you can work as you normally would with Enterprise Guide. You do your changes, make your code nicer, make your flow nicer, make them more complete, you test them, and you save that work. And once you're happy with it and you want to commit those changes back to GitLab, you stage those changes and commit those changes with a good commit message so that you can find it later. And when you want to make those changes, the committed changes in that local Git repository available to GitLab, you push those changes back to GitLab. So with that, I want to show you each step how you actually do those. So we want to go and create this personal access token. So we go into GitLab. I sign in as myself. It might be different on your place how this will look like, what kind of URL you're using. I'm using the public GitLab. The one you have is probably quite similar. So I'm using my own user ID and password, and in my case this is sufficient to get in. And here's my homepage. And to be able to create a personal access token, I go into my profile. It's where you have either a picture of yourself or an avatar. On the upper left hand side on the menu, hit this one and you go edit profile. And then you will get a new menu. And here, but like midway down, third way down, you have personal access token. So you hit that one. And on your right hand side, there is a button to add a new token. So we hit that one. And we give it a name. I created this sometimes, so it's already there. Give it a useful name. This is a GitLab local name, so that you can go back and see what tokens you have. And a token to be able to access GitLab from Enterprise Guide on my behalf. So, and this is key to understand. This is a key to GitLab so that you can have Enterprise Guide act on your behalf. And you can select an expiration date. I will encourage you to do that. That's kind of an extra layer of protection. So the key will expire and it needs to be renewed. And there are practical ways of doing that. And then you go, you only need the API access, and then you create token. And now the token is made available. You don't need to look at it, and you will never see it again. So make sure that so if I use it immediately, I don't need to do anything more. So I just put it in the clipboard, because then I'll paste it in the next step. So now that we have the person access token, we can store this in the Git profile in SAS Enterprise Guide. And you do this under Tools. There is an option to manage Git connections. And here I can create a new profile. I hit the plus button on the right side and I give it a name. My GitLab profile is a good name. I use the name that I have on my GitLab profile, which is this. You may want to look it up. It needs to be spelled exactly like it is in GitLab. I can show it briefly here. You go into your profile and you can, it's under account. You'll find it here. So use that name. And email, also the same way. This is used for different purposes. You'll find your email under profile. It will be here. You can copy it, put it in, and then the password we had from the profile, and it's in the clipboard. If you lost it, you can create it again. There's no limits to how many personal access tokens you create. You just need to manage them. So if you lost it, you should revoke the one you had and create a new one. Just the same we did in the last page. So now we store this. And I also found in Enterprise Guide I need to make this a default. So just do that. So then this one is being used when I set up new repositories. So now we're still in the Manage Git Connections window in Enterprise Guide. So now I want to clone a repository, so I have that available in Enterprise Guide. So you can create a new one. In my case, I want to clone one that I have. If you want to create a new one, create a new one in GitLab and then clone from that one. It can be an empty one. And now I have an existing one, so I have it made available here. And if you go into GitLab, there's some convenience here on the towards the right, you have a blue button where it says code. And here I have clone with HTTPS. That's the approach we have gone with here. That's what Enterprise Guide supports. So if I just simply hit the copy button, I'll get this URL into the clipboard. So then I can simply paste that in where I clone the repository. I need to put it somewhere, so put it where you want it. I have set aside under my personal folder. So I have this work folder. So I like to keep it here, and I make a new one there, and I call it something meaningful. Personal GitLab EG2 via. And normal conventions use it as the same name as the repository. Here I'm prefixing, so because I have several versions of them. But it's very common to have it the same name. It's almost it's a good practice. So here we have it, and you see, since I put my GitLab profile as a default, it will use that one. So that means it will reference the person's access token that I had there to be able to authenticate into GitLab on my behalf and clone this into this folder. Takes a little while. This is not the biggest one, but still it depends on, here it's in. So now I have this cloned into Enterprise Guide, and I can use it the way I want to use it. So now that we have ourselves a repository, we can start using it in Enterprise Guide. So, and here, let me just start with the repository view. I have a bunch of other repositories. This is already active. I can open it up and I will see a user interface to Git from within SAS Enterprise Guide. This is similar to what we have in VIA. And then I can open up the project, and I can open an existing file. I am opening up my computer. If you remember, in SAS, when we opened this up, we were on my home area under work, and I had the project here, and I want to work on this Enterprise Guide project that I put there. So I already had one in the past. So, so this is the one that I want to work with. And you can work with this as you normally would. You don't need to be concerned with Git at this point. You stage and commit to Git. That means you're preparing changes to be stored into Git. Right now we're working on the local files that you normally would. And I just want to do some aesthetic changes. And then let's fix this also. Distinct. As you recall, these are just for show, but show is important. People are reading your code or flows more often than you write them. So they need to be visually easy to understand. We call these products. And then product line for this product line. Yeah, we can just keep these. We can fix them later. Let's save them. We can try if they still work. For now, I want to save them. And you will notice now that Git has picked up that this is a change. It is not staged yet. I can choose to stage it, and I do that by either I select one and stage that one, or I stage all of them. This is a user interface you might have known. Made some aesthetic changes to beautify the flow, and then we commit those changes. that means we're committing the entity to the local repository and that means on this laptop in this particular case that Enterprise Guide is working on. So they're not yet in GitLab, and we can double check. So GitLab has this one. This is the commit message from the last one. But when I can push those changes. That means I'm pushing the changes that I had locally into the remote repository that I got it from, which is GitLab. And it takes a little while because now it's literally cloning or pushing those changes back to that repository. And we can take a peek that it actually did so. And you will see the commit message is now in here. So now let us recap what we just did. So we entered GitLab and created the personal access token. I remember I went into my profile. There was a menu item for creating personal access token, and I specified API scope. I gave it a name and just created it. And there was a field that was masked, and I could hit the copy button. So it's in my clipboard. Then we went into Enterprise Guide under Tools, Git Connections, I believe it's called, and then we created a Git profile where I entered gave it a name and my username in GitLab and my email at GitLab, and I pasted the person's access token in the password field, which is important. It's not your password, it's the person's access token. It's considered the best practice, and to a certain extent is enforced even. And then we went into Enterprise, under this Git connection window, we also have a way to clone Git repositories. So we did that, hit the repositories, hit the plus button to clone Git repository. I had one available. If you want to create a new one, do that in GitLab. I would recommend that. It's easier than doing it from Enterprise Guide. So, and then you go into GitLab and you ask for, on the project, on the repository, there is a code button marked blue on the right-hand side. So you hit that one and you will be presented with a copy button next to HTTPS, HTTPS clone. So you just hit that one and you paste that into this profile window in Enterprise Guide and hit clone. Yeah, there's a minor detail. You need to make sure that this your profile is default, so we'll use that profile when you clone it. So you need to also to specify the local folder in on your laptop typically, if that's how you run Enterprise Guide. If you run it through Windows terminal, find the file system you have access to and create a folder where you want your repository to be in. And then you can work as normal. You do your changes, improve your code, test it, and you stage the changes you want to commit, and then you commit those changes and give it a meaningful name. So as great as Git is, there are areas where alternatives to the Gits are more appropriate. There are areas in artifacts where Git works really well, and there are other type of artifacts where alternatives exist and are better suited. And the right artifacts. So let's start with, well, sometimes you speak of source of truth. It might sound bigger than it needs to be. But from a Git perspective or from a source code management perspective, is like where stuff originates. So it could be your SAS code, your Java code, your R code, your Go code, your Python code. And under that, that will be made into an operational state. So that belongs nicely and works nicely into Git. Database schemas is nice to put in Git. XML schemas works nicely with Git because they might have a dependencies to that code. And they're not that big. I'll get to that. CI/CD pipelines if you want to automate your build and deployment processes. Docker build files, the definition of what you want to have in your container images. Infrastructure as code is very popular to put in Git because those are also instructions that may have a life cycle that needs to be managed. And documentation, in particular if it's tightly coupled or dependent to the other artifacts, then Git is a convenient place to put it. I know that Word has its own proprietary and quite nice and user-friendly version management system, so it might be sufficient. But then again, if that Word file has a strong dependency to your code, you may want to put it in the Git repository. So you could do that. When it comes to data, Git is not designed to manage data. I know some have tried, and it will work to a certain extent. There's a limit to how big it is. But usually data management system, databases, data warehouses have their own way of managing data and their own practices, and they live differently than your source code. The schemas might live close to the source code, but the data as such, and they tend to be huge. Large files, there's a limit to Git, so you may want to manage them in different ways. Docker images, they are derived artifacts, so they don't need to be in Git. You can always build them again based on Docker build files. And also, although Docker images, they need some kind of version management, the way they're used, you may have different versions of it that may be needed. But there's there are other repositories for that purpose, container registries. So use that instead. Yeah, and I did want to share some recommended Git practices. So these are recommendations I found out there on the internet. You may even ask your favorite AI, but they resonate well with me. So like first, commit messages, you saw how useful they were to me, and they will be useful for yourself also, so that you recognize what is this commit about. So then you can go back in the history and find out if you need to revert back to that commit. And the repositories, as with anything in life, make them neat and focused and easy to understand. And do work as a team, talk amongst yourself, know where you're at. So even though we have Git, you do need to get organized. And your clone, like you're working as a file system, you can theoretically you can put the repository in a common file folder. I wouldn't recommend that because then Git may not know who made the last change. Because Git relies on the staging and committing, and if you do that, as if anything is happening outside, so rather use your own folders that only you have access to, like your local folders on your laptop, if that's an option, or a OneDrive that only you have access to. And frequent and small commits are considered good practices. Then it's easier to go back in time. So that's it for recommended practices. There are more, and maybe your team will come up with something that works well for you. So let's recap by revisiting the first slide. So I wanted to show you how you can use GitLab with Enterprise Guide, but I also want to make a point of the other Git or source code version control management system like GitHub, Azure Repos, and Bitbucket, and several others based on Git. They will work essentially the same. So, but before going into how, it makes sense to show you why people like it so much, why you would want to use Git. So I'll share some example of my experience where I accidentally deleted stuff that I shouldn't have, saved it. And through Git, I was able to go back in time and find a safe time where the stuff that I deleted was still there. So I can easily go back and get that back and use that one. And I also shared some recommended practices that I really want you to consider. So with that, I wish you the best of luck to try it out. It's I learned to trust Git. Thank you.